Thanksgiving is a time of family, of bonding, of appreciating the different ways that you have been blessed in your life. But there are various groups operating in America today that want it to be about much more than that. They want it to be about politics and conflict and persuasion and trying to force your opinions on others. And we have three, both on the left and the right, different groups trying to do that. The first is actually the DNC. And so Matt Compton, who's the digital director of the DNC, says, "This time of year, the only thing more annoying than holiday traffic is an awkward conversation with family about politics." And Matt Compton does not want it to be awkward, and so they have created a new website called, Your Republican Uncle, playing upon the idea that whether you're conservative or liberal, you probably have an uncle who's on the opposite side. And they've created this website today, actually, in advance of Thanksgiving, to give you some advice on how you can use talking points to debunk some of the conservative talking points that you'll be faced with. He says, "We designed your RepublicanUncle.com specifically so that it looks great and loads quickly on your phone. No getting ambushed when you go back for seconds on stuffing." And the idea, to me, of like hearing a talking point and then running out of the room to check your phone on how to debunk it, I think it might be missing the point of Thanksgiving a little bit. But they have a variety of different myths that they are busting on their website, Your Republican Uncle. We're going to go over a couple of them just to give you a taste of it. One is that President Obama has increased the deficit. And they say no, actually, in fact, the deficit as a percentage of GDP has been cut by more than 50% since he took office. And by the way, if the Republicans manage to repeal the ACA, that's actually going to increase the deficit by something like $109 billion over the next 10 years. So far as I know, those numbers are accurate. Great numbers. Don't know what effect they're actually going to have at Thanksgiving. The second one, Democrats like President Obama have raised my taxes, something you've probably heard many times before. They counter it on Your Republican Uncle by saying that he has cut taxes repeatedly for the middle-class families. And in the first 4 years of his administration, a typical family making, I believe, under $50,000 a year received $3,500 in tax cuts, or $3,600, I should say. And so it's great that they're busting those myths. Again, I think they're kind of missing the point of Thanksgiving. But it's not just the DNC that's trying to inject politics into your Thanksgiving festivities. The gun debate is actually being pushed into it. And in this case, it's actually, again, it's a leftist's fault. So Mayor Bloomberg, well, actually not a very strong leftist, but on this issue, I think that he's in the right. He has created an organization called, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and they have a list of talking points as well. So first, the myth is that they want to address the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I love the use of those little toys there. They say, in fact, if more guns in the hands of more people stopped gun crime, we'd be the safest country in the developed world. Instead, our gun murder rate is the highest in the developed world. They don't list any of the actual numbers there, but if you look at the raw number of gun murders in America every year, it is mind-blowing. New gun laws are unconstitutional. That's another myth. They say that all rights have reasonable limits. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, after all, regardless of the fact that we have free speech. And they say that common sense public safety laws like prohibiting felons from buying guns have been ruled to be constitutional, even with our conservative Supreme Court. Now, so they prepared those talking points. Instantly, of course, the NRA, their watchful eye, caught Mayor Bloomberg's action, and they came back with their own pamphlet. They put Mayor Bloomberg's head on a turkey body, and they wanted to bust some of the gun control myths. They say, Bloomberg says that if more guns in the hands of more people stopped gun crime, we'd be the safest country in the developed world. They say, in fact, as the number of guns and carry permit holders have risen to all-time highs, the nation's murder rate has fallen to nearly an all-time low. And they also want to counter the idea that Second Amendment supporters believe that all gun laws are unconstitutional, saying that, in fact, they do believe that some of them are fine, like stopping felons from possessing guns, but they're worried about gun registration under the universal background checks label. Now look, as I said, I don't like that any of these groups are trying to make Thanksgiving any more about politics than it already is once people start eating and drinking. But specifically there, I can't go past those myths without responding to them. Yes, the NRA is right. We are at an all-time low in terms of many forms of violent crime, like murder, like robberies, like rape. Despite the fact that the economy is not doing well, those numbers are low. But simply because they came after the increase in guns, that does not mean that there's a causal link there. There's a number of great reasons. I mean, you can look at research into environmental lead. You can look at the fact that the economy overall is much better than it was 100, 200 years ago, so we should expect that violent crime rates would be lower. Anyway, I just got hung up on that particular myth. But no, this is not what Thanksgiving is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about bonding over the things that you have in common, your similarities. It's not supposed to be about pointing out the differences you have when it comes to things like the deficit, the ACA, and gun laws. And specifically, I'm going to talk to the liberals here who might be convinced by yourrepublicanuncle.com to try to bring up some of these talking points. Everybody wants to be the one who swayed someone, who flipped someone's political beliefs. I loved political rhetoric in college. I'm on air partially because I want to influence the political views of the people who watch this video. But there are very limited circumstances in which you can actually reach a person. And Thanksgiving dinner is not one of those places, especially once you introduce alcohol there. There's a famous quotation. It's, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." Coming back with these facts about the deficit in the ACA is not going to change anyone's opinion because their political views fundamentally are not based off of a belief that Obama raised their taxes or that the deficit is up by 35% or whatever number they want to cite. They have these deeply held beliefs, these emotions that are driving their attachment to politics, and they're in no fit state on Thanksgiving when they've been drinking to be convinced otherwise simply because you pull some stats out of your ass. Whether you're on the left or the right, leave the numbers, leave the gun control, leave the deficit talk away from the Thanksgiving dinner table. Focus on your family and you'll have a much better holiday time.